Let's do it. Alrighty, here we go. My name is Marty Fox from WHITEFOX. Now, here's the deal.
Matt, I want to say thank you very much for agreeing to come on to With the Fox.
No problem.
But I want to start, Marty, and you know this story, and of course you do, Matt, by the way that this happened, how we got you on this podcast, because it is a pretty funny story. I'm a believer in, connection, and I love strangers and talking to people. And I was standing outside of my house about a month ago, maybe 5 weeks, and it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm trying to wrangle my daughter into the house, and this mini fastback or mini SUV wagon drives past, stops suddenly, window goes down. Go, mate. I go, hello. He goes, I used to live in this house. And I said, oh, did you? And his daughter, your daughter's next to you in the seat, sort of shrinking down. And you're like, Dad, you're so embarrassing. And I said, well, why don't you come and have a look? We've just renovated our place. I love that sort of stuff personally. And you said, really? I said, yeah, come in. So you pull your car in the driveway. I take you through the house. You're pointing out, I didn't have a garage here. This wasn't here then. And you take me. I love that story. I think if nothing else, you're actually telling about the history of the house that I live in, which I think is amazing. And we get through this whole thing. It's 20 minutes of chatting and getting along. And then you've asked me what I do, and I say I work at WHITEFOX. And I say, do you mind if I ask what you do? And you said, I do investments and doing what you do now. And your daughter, which I love, again, this is just a fantastic insight into how kids work. Dad, no, you started Seek. And that, of course, piqued my. I was like, oh, hang on a sec. So I just thought that was a great way to connect. And then obviously you were going to send me some photos of the house that you used to live in. And then I cheerfully asked you to come on and chat to us on the podcast. And here you are, Matt Rockman.
I am, indeed. Excited. I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm poised and ready.
Oh, Shu came in and goes, Marty, you got to hear this story of how I've just met the founder of Seek and how he used to live in my house. And he was bouncing around. And I went, founder of Seek? Oh, no, this is amazing. Because I knew that there was 2 brothers and yourself, and did a bit of research. And what was really interesting is that you had a real estate background. You studied. You guys actually have a few things in common, not only just the house, but you went to Wesley College like Shuey, and Ukrainian background. And I just thought your situation with Seek was that you understood the idea, but you were sales and marketing, and you brought that punch.
Yeah, Marty, I mean, look, it was an amazing incredible business, and I don't want to be too cliche here, but a lot of what you think are the key principles for success, hold true. It was a team effort. Andrew, Paul, and I started the business. They're 2 brothers, and I was the third wheel, so to speak.
How were you the third wheel? How did that come about?
Yeah, So Paul came up with the idea. I was working in a family business. Andrew was consulting for Booz Allen at the time. Paul was sort of inspired by, he was at Arnold Bloch Leibler, inspired by, he was working on Look Smart for Evan Thornley, and sort of saw the potential of the internet, and approached me and said, hey, I've got this idea. I've got a business plan to start a classifieds website. I think that the market's going to rotate from newsprint to online. It's a better medium. And I said, great, my family business is underwater. My family was in property, and my father over-leveraged, in commercial property, over-leveraged the company, and ended up sort of selling for cents in the dollars to a Chinese investor. So I didn't really have a plan or have a career, and Paul came along with this idea, and I said, great, I'll run the revenue and the sales and marketing. Let's go. And we raised a small amount of money from my family at the time.
How old were you at the time?
I want to say late 20s, maybe 28, 29. Had a banking degree, bit of experience in real estate. Worked in the family hotel.
And you were resi or commercial real estate?
My first job was with CBRE, Richard Ellis at the time.
Yeah.
That's the RE. that's gone. In their research department. And then ended up working in the family business. We owned a hotel called Rockman's Regency, and I was head of sales and marketing there. Sort of cut my teeth.
Isn't it cool?
No. Look, it's now the Marriott in Melbourne.
Right.
And that was a great experience. Hospitality's hard, and if you can sort of make that work operationally. I think it's a good background. And then Paul approached me, and obviously had his brother in tow, and we had a very small amount of money and started, building the business. We sort of incorporated in November of 97, and the first site went live in March 98. And from there, what's interesting to me is a lot of people say, "Oh, that was a great idea," and I think and then I've spent some time in venture capital and so forth. Now I'm in more private equity, but it's certainly not the idea. You do need a good idea, but I say the ideas are worth $2. It's the execution and the delivery of sort of growing the market share that is key. It's not really, and everybody comes up with a great idea, right? But getting that great idea to scale is where the rubber hits the road, and that's the hard work.
And so in terms of taking that idea and executing it to the standard that you did, I mean, classifieds online, it wasn't like you revolutionised that. I mean, there had been many companies worldwide that had actually...
Yeah, and contrary to sort of common belief, we were one of the last entrants to the market. There was Monster at the time, which ended up being owned by PBL, or under a joint venture of PBL and also Morgan and Banks. And this is in the employment category. Of course, there was REA. Came later was car sales. But in terms of big competitors, both the newspaper businesses had their online classifieds portals, but they were obviously, you had F2, which was sort of a breakaway part of Fairfax that was meant to be sort of driving their online presence.
But it's similar to, I mean, WHITEFOX never really reinvented anything. We just had the right aesthetic, the right tone of voice. And I vividly remember finishing university, being 2009, moving from Dunedin, accounting and marketing, flying into Melbourne, trying to get a job, using Seek. And I remember the branding, just the navy, the logo, Seek, and you shall find. Like, there were just some very key, simple aesthetic and tone of voice elements to the brand that was so burnt into my mind that I can't forget them now. Yeah. I haven't thought of them since this interview, but yet they're still in my mind.
Yeah, and interestingly, all our competitors sort of had jobs in their name. We didn't. And in fact, the early business
was more emotional. See, you shall find.
Yeah. And initially, we were considering going into all three key classifieds categories of motors, real estate, and jobs. And we never moved out of jobs, obviously, for a range of reasons. But the name was very generic and meant to look. And early days, it would have been the first week or two of our business. We had a whole lot of names, and obviously it had to be available.
Do you remember what some of those names were?
Oh, I do.
I
do. Well, the code name initially was The Spot, and that was the name Paul came up with. And I said, we can't use The Spot. That's terrible.
Yeah, and he's not in branding and marketing, is he?
No, he's a very talented guy, but that's not his strong suite. And we came up with a whole lot of names like Comb, Fig Jam. There was a whole lot. I can't remember them all. I wish I'd kept the list. And Seek was on the list of our sort of long list, if you will, of names. And I was driving home one night, I'll never forget, and I was in a rental house after I'd sold the one that you're now living in.
Yeah.
And
by the way, great reno, isn't it?
Amazing. I might buy it back.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, waiting for the call. I think you can afford it.
I think that'd be okay.
And I'm looking at my old CD player. I'm a bit of a car guy, and I like my good stereos. And I'm looking at my CD player, and obviously to change tracks, it says in big bold letters, Seek. I'm like, shit, that's good. That's so good. Came home, jumped upstairs, jumped on. What was it? Melbourne IT, who were running all the web domains at the time. I think they were the only or first web domain nameplace. Jumped on and put in...
Is that Mad Barry?
No. I don't think it is. No, don't know. No, I don't know who you mean.
Yeah.
And typed in seek.com.au. This listing is free, $29.99 to register it. And I just hit the bid. Got my play card out. And the rest is history.
Yeah. Probably would have sold more if it was Fig Jam.
With these sort of stories, and there's often apocryphal tales about how these businesses start and what goes on behind the scenes. But were there any? There's normally a fork in the road moment or something where it's going one way or another. Like you guys are sitting down, you're doing something pretty large. It could be what it became, but it could have also been something we talk about now. Remember, you had Seek, it didn't work.
So I think our toughest point in growth. Look, we had some site outages. It was much more expensive and cumbersome to build websites back then. You had to build them on Cold Fusion and big back ends, and the coding was hard. Now you can build a site for.
You did have the cloud.
Correct. It was all mainframe based, or at least server based. But I think our biggest fork in the road was we were meant to be listing the business into 2000, and we had the dotcom crash in around April 2000, where the Nasdaq dropped 30-40%. And we were effectively running out of money, and it was our listing that was going to replenish our coffers and build the balance sheet and allow us to sort of grow to the next level. And that door was firmly closed, pretty much in our face.
Because how many years after launch? That was what?
So 98, 2 years.
Yeah, so 2 years after launch, you were hoping to list.
Yeah.
That's how quickly it grew.
Yeah, it was growing incredibly fast. The world was super excited about online businesses and the potential of the internet. And we still see that level of enthusiasm today. I mean, just look at the Magnificent Seven, look at the power of the Nasdaq, look at how much wealth's been created there. Look at, obviously the consumerization of social media, Amazon, Netflix, Apple, the list goes on. I mean, these have been the hero storied companies of the last 30 years, if you will.
The subscription-based model.
Yeah, so we were growing very fast. Macquarie Bank was talking about, or we were considered to list in April of 2000. Dotcom crash comes along, and we've got a very small amount of money left. And capital markets had closed up as a result. And we weren't able to sort of raise any more money, and we only had a little bit of runway. I'm going to say 6 months or thereabouts.
And at that point in time, with 6 months runway, and the crash,
and no ability to re-raise,
and can't re-raise. Who were the shareholders at that time? When it got tough.
Yeah, look, we had a bunch of sort of family office high net worths,
Melbourne based,
of course, the Melbourne Mafia.
Yes.
And we had a couple of institutions on the register. I want to say we had maybe Yahoo Inc. at the time, Macquarie Capital, who were a very early investor, and we had who else did we have? My memory it's a long time ago. I should have taken notes along the way.
Better like this.
Yeah. Gresham, which is an investment fund. So we had a bunch of sort of small funds, high net worths. Andrew, Paul, and myself. And my father had a large share of the register.
And when you say that you couldn't get any more funding,
well, it's a bit like when the IPO markets the door closes on IPO markets. It's that sort of trickles down through secondary markets and private markets. Confidence goes. Companies get re-rated in terms of price. And it would have been very difficult for us to go back to market and get more funding. So we had the fork in the road, to answer your question. It's a very long answer, very explanative answer, is that we could either do one of two things. We could halve the size of the company, furlough a lot of staff, cut the guts out. And culture was really important to us, right? Because we were the little guys.
You on Wellington Street at this point?
We were. Yeah, $10 a square foot per office. Yeah, it was cheap and cheerful, that place. And so we could either grow the business and get the revenues to exceed the losses and get into profit territory, or we could sort of downsize, if you will, to cut our burn. And we managed to grow our revenues fast enough to get through that cross the profit chasm and make the business financially viable.
And was that still within your bucket? Was that your trying to?
Yeah.
So how did you do that? Because I had a fork in the road moment early last year, and we all lived through that. And there's certain decisions that you can make that ultimately change the next 10, 15, 20 years. Yep. Ours was moving the brand interstate.
Yep.
What was your big thing at that moment?
So what enabled us to do that is we were badly undercharging for the value we were providing. So it was very much like a freemium model where we'd give it away, try and engage trial, and then try and charge our customers for the service we're delivering. what we worked out is on a comparative basis and a value basis, we were delivering a lot more results on a dollars per placement than any other media.
Charging per success, were you? You were just
no.
And I've just heard that exact sentence from Anthony Catalano on his new venture.
Yeah, Kat's a very good mate of mine. And that's right. And I guess a lot of challenger businesses, into the market. That's their go-to-market. That's their go-to-market strategy. And so we ratcheted up the prices to better reflect and closer reflect the values we were providing to our customers. And that enabled our revenues to grow. Obviously, we also had market share penetration as well. So we continued driving volume and yield, and that allowed us to become successful in that sense financially.
I feel like we jumped a little bit ahead, but when you first started out, how hard was it to sell to people?
Impossible.
So what was your pitch?
Because at the time, I think the number was there was 23-4 million Australians and 7 million were online. Vastly different number to today. They're all accessing the internet via dial-up modems.
Home to line in the office. Kids will never know.
All that fun stuff, and it was phenomenally slow. So we had a two-part sale. Part A was, hey, come online. This is a great way for you to either look for jobs or place your job ads. And then if you once people made the journey online, and a lot of people we were talking to hadn't been online. They weren't banking online, booking travel online, all this stuff we all do today. Social media certainly wasn't a thing. It was sort of email and, a couple of sports sites and Telstra Big Pond. And it was a hard sell. It was a really hard sell. And the name today is synonymous, as you say. People connect the name Seek. The branding's done its job, and Seek equals jobs. But back in the day, it's like, who are you? A couple of scruffy-haired blokes talking about this thing called the internet. Never heard of Seek. Don't reckon it'll work. And that's why we had to do a lot of free giveaways to engage trial. The challenge with free is people don't value it. So they didn't measure it. They didn't really take account of it. They didn't really care about it. They didn't really post often. They certainly didn't check the results. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. People tend to focus on things they pay for. So it was the transition. Took time. And as I like to say, every overnight success takes 10 years.
Absolutely. And they all think it happens like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember the call when Kerry Packer was, because that's a big one.
It was James Packer.
Oh, it was James.
James called Paul. James was slogging it out in a joint venture called 9MSN, which was a joint venture that PBL effectively controlled with Microsoft. And as part of that, they'd taken on the Monster brand as a stable of the 9MSN portal assets. And James, very smart guy, figured out that they were getting nowhere and we were crushing them in the market, and one day decided to pick up the phone to Paul and say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you about Seek. We're not winning. Is there a deal we can do? And that took a little bit of toing and froing. And eventually we did a deal where they closed down the Monster website effectively and bought a strategic stake, I think 30% of our business pre the IPO. So this
is the game changer. Is that a game changer moment? Is that the one?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helped because the weight of the Packer brand, big door opener, their assets. They had Channel 9 at the time. They had the online 9MSN. The whole PBL organisation. And yeah, look, it definitely helped legitimise our business and put some weight behind our business.
You become part of the vernacular in the sense that when people are like, oh, I need a job, you should seek it. Like if that becomes, people are talking about your brand in a way that's not specific. That's, when you're sort of really a big part of it.
And we all brand champions on both sides of the fence where you literally had the people posting, but the people finding, both being so successful in both areas? Like, is that...
because it's a marketplace, I'd like to plug my new one called machinesforyou.com.au if you want any earth-moving equipment, tractors.
Machinesforyou.com.au.
Yeah, that's my new little venture based up in Broadbeach.
Okay.
Let's see where that goes.
There's a bit of building going on.
Exactly, yeah.
We're opening up on.
We might, we can see you some machinery.
Absolutely.
It's a two-sided marketplace. So you've got your job seeker audience and you've got your job advertiser audience. And the job advertisers is more like a trade sale. We had a bunch of sort of sales guys, field-based sales guys, who would create those relationships initially with recruiters, and then we moved to the corporates. SMEs were more of a self-serve model. And then on the other side, my business partner, Andrew, had the responsibility through joint ventures with like 9MSN and then eventually our TV advertising, our outdoor and our generalist media campaign to drive users to come to the website. And that's how you build the critical mass.
So looking back at Seek now, is there anything you look back and go, because obviously it's a phenomenal success, so saying, was there anything you do differently seems to be silly because...
But people love that question.
Well, it's an interesting question because, of course, you can look at it...
Wouldn't do a damn thing differently.
That's what I was saying.
No. The truth is, we probably held on. You learn through your mistakes. We were pretty young. I guess with the benefit of hindsight, probably would have moved people who weren't the right fit and weren't performing on more quickly. Gotcha.
But I know why you didn't, though, because you said culture was such a big thing within the business.
Yeah, but you've got to protect that culture and you've got to get rid of those who don't fit or aren't performing. And I think we were a bit young and naive and unsure of ourselves, our judgment, and maybe the process. But if I had my time again, I'm probably a little bit more quick to act if somebody's not the right fit.
And because you were meeting such heavy hitters within the marketplace, how did you react to when those people saw interest in your business? How were those interactions?
Pretty nervous.
Yeah.
Pretty nervous. So. A couple of dumb kids from Melbourne.
At bloody Wesley Education.
Yeah. And the bizarre thing is it never felt successful to us, which is crazy, but we were so busy and we always could see, so many more mountains to climb, so much more to achieve, so many more numbers to build out that I don't think we ever felt like, hey, wow, look at, and you don't want that sort of complacency or hubris to get hold of you. I think if it does, you cap the angle of growth. And we never did. We were always, always feeling like we could, push further, grow the numbers harder, get a bigger footprint, accelerate our competitive lead, buy other companies. So we didn't really stop. We celebrated milestones. And I think we did a good job of that.
What were those milestones that are so memorable?
Getting to profit, listing, ad volumes, revenues, all those sort of.
What was the big one that you may have sort of had on a piece of paper as a budding entrepreneur? What was that?
I think it's a age old, tried and tested get to profit.
Get to profit.
Yeah, because you can't sustain losses forever. And culturally, you have to make a shift. And in fact, I've got a meeting with the CEO at 3:00 today about this very issue. You've got to make a shift from a loss-making business to a profit-making business. And I think the world is reevaluating loss-making businesses. And we've seen that in the
after
last...
paying these sorts of...
Yeah, we've seen that recently.
Can I ask, because we actually pride ourselves at WHITEFOX culture. It's something that we're very strong on.
Yeah.
And it's about the people and how we treat them and how they feel. Tell us about because I know I had friends who worked at Seek and who worked in the Wellington Street office and who loved it. What was it? What was internally? What was going on that was driving culture? Were you having nights out?
Great sense of mission and purpose,
yeah. First
and foremost. Up, a very small company up against big competitors, and you guys might experience that in terms of some of the bigger networks.
It's where we are now, absolutely.
And that's very motivating. That that can really, we can beat these guys. We can sort of outfox our competitors. You can use that if you want. But
there'll be a voice in the mouth or not.
Yeah, there certainly will. But so that the sense of sort of underdog, if you will, you can harness that and foster that. Celebrating your wins is really important. Sort of, we had a real work hard, play hard mentality, and we were reasonably well structured in career path, remuneration and salary packaging, milestones. We did a sort of good adult job, if you will. It was a great fun environment, but people also understood the mission. But we did a good job of recognising and rewarding great performance as well. And some people who were there early made a lot of money.
Yeah.
That always helps.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, bloody hell.
That helps culture. Because and then you're out. Then you're out. You're out.
How old were you
by
when you
2005?
Look, I was probably 30 when I left. I left a couple of years after we'd IPO'd. I had a young family and a very angry wife who never saw me. And this sort of misnomer that if you make bank, you're meant to retire. I was 40, which was pretty young. And
So 30 or 40?
I started at 30 and ended at about 40. So it was pretty much a 10-year journey.
10-year play, yeah.
And decided to, I didn't love being in a listed, a board of a listed business. It sort of was changing.
Restrictive?
Yeah. I love the startup, culture, to be honest. A bit more freedom if you're unlisted versus listed.
Yeah. I feel that when looking at franchise brands within real estate and how they operate versus what we're doing.
Yeah, careful what you wish for, right?
Correct.
So my wife and I decided to move to France, take the kids, one and three.
And you lived in France?
We lived in France.
Why France?
Do I really?
Well,
Marty, does that really need an answer?
I'm doing research here.
Anyway, it's good. And it was in fact just outside of Saint-Tropez, so I'm surely I don't have to explain.
I don't think
why.
we'll be there.
I'm there in 6 weeks.
There you go. Well, you can answer that for yourself. So I needed some time out, and I spent, in fact, bizarrely, and I didn't really recognise it at the time, I was pretty much out for 2008 and 2009 of the global financial crisis. Yeah. So I didn't really pay a lot of attention to Wall Street's crashing and assets are getting really valued and the whole world's in flames.
You would have had some shares.
Well, I had 6 shares and they were holding up reasonably well. But yeah, so did that and then came back and sort of moved into venture capital and then moved to LA in 2014 and lived in LA for a couple of years, which was great before my kids hit high school.
I've still never been to LA. What was that like?
Have you really not?
No, I never.
Great city.
It's
changed.
That was fabulous. That was fabulous. I mean, it's the sort of quantum opposite of a town like Melbourne. It's a big, brash, a lot of sunshine. Enjoyed that, and I was sort of in venture then, investing in venture startups.
Software?
Range of different businesses.
How did the kids go with the moving? Melbourne, France, LA?
Yeah, they I mean, kids are adaptable, right? And so my kids, it was very funny. We were at quite a well-known school in a good area in LA. It was Santa Monica Canyon, which is sort of more like Brentwood. It's like the little pockets of perhaps like Hawkesbury.
Yes.
Hawkesbury's not really a suburb.
Yeah. It's a village.
It's a village. So we were in Santa Monica Canyon, which is different to Santa Monica, near Santa Monica. And my house, I'm not a golfer, bizarrely. My house.
Neither am I. He loves it.
My house backed onto Riviera Golf Club.
Oh, amazing.
And I had a door that I could let my dog go out and go for a run and relieve it.
Shit on the green.
Correct.
I love that dog.
And my mates couldn't believe my bedroom looked over the 7th green or whatever.
Phenomenal.
And my mates couldn't believe that I wasn't into golf, yet my house is on Riviera Golf Club.
No, because you like the view.
Yeah, the view is sensational.
Yeah, I like grass more than golf.
Yeah, me too. But in answer to the kids, the kids were great. They adapted really well, much better than the parents. But they'd pick up this American accent at school. I'm like, kids, if you want to try and fit in, right? I'm like, if you want to be popular, keep the Aussie accent.
Yes.
Don't change that. Yeah. And they'd come home and speak in their usual Australian accent. And yet if we saw them in the school environment or around their mates, they had this perfect American accent. They can still do it today. But that was a great adventure. We got to travel through the US and meet some wonderful people, but decided that we didn't want to bring up a couple of Kardashians. So
high school?
High school came back to Australia, moved back at my house in Toorak in Melbourne. And probably from then I started moving out of early stage into later stage companies that are typically profitable, companies that you can see a pathway to an IPO or exit in the next 3 or 4 years.
And would you move into those companies with a equity play or advisory role?
Both. Typically both, or combination therein. So, try to follow my time and effort with my capital and try and get enhanced economics as a result of doing that based off my experience.
Is there one that you hang your hat on? You go, I'm very happy with the result of what's my impact in a business since then?
There's probably a number of them. I mean, I was early involved in Nitro, which listed and then got taken over, delisted by Potentia. I was an early investor and participant with Square Peg with Paul's venture shop, and that's gone on to be a great business. I just mentioned Machines for You.
Yes,
I'm on
it again.
Yeah, Machines for You. There's another one I'm very pleased to be involved called Automentum, which is a SaaS business that brings together venues and food suppliers.
Yes.
I'm the chairman of a small crypto fund, which I'm very excited about, by two really smart guys based in Sydney, and that's hard. That brings me back to my Seek days in terms of, because crypto's a bit of an asset class that's poorly understood, poorly branded. There's been some pretty shitty results with FTX and bad actors, if you will, but that's looking more and more exciting. So I really like that space. That's about it.
And it would be remiss, because this guy, he gets excited when he knows someone has a similar interest to him, if we didn't mention cars, because you are a car man. How many do you own now?
Proper car head. But no
You
different.
put him to shame.
Can I just put in the disclaimer? No different to being a golf tragic or a football religio. Right? No different.
Absolutely.
Just love your cars.
Yes,
And you know what? You're in a
I've got
position to
12. I've got 12.
12.
And of the 12, how many are Porsche?
4.
But hang
What
on a
models
sec.
are they? Oh,
Wait, before we get to Paul, just quickly, what caught a lot of people off guard with the story that I told was I said that you rocked up in a Mini Cooper, and everyone's like,
You know why?
What?
Because any Porsche, any car
my
collector
wife's-
doesn't mind having a Mini,
Yeah.
an R-Bath,
Yeah.
a Golf GTI.
Yeah.
There's certain small cars that can pass the
No
test in the
judgment from
garage.
me. It was just funny
totally
that
agree. Not many.
Not many, but there's 3 or 4 that can actually pass the
True and
test.
correct. It's actually my wife's car. I don't know why I was wrong.
Hey, is it a Clubman
yes,
or is it a Countryman?
It's a Countryman John Cooper Works.
Yeah, great car.
yeah,
Great car.
And that's the minimum standard. Right?
Absolutely. If it's not John Cooper Works, it doesn't get in the
As I
garage.
sit here with a blown license. But anyway, that's for the next
I
podcast.
just got my license back.
Yeah, you too.
It's the 40 zones that really fuck
Kill
me.
it. You
Yeah.
do it. It's the intersection between a 40 zone and 600.
Correct.
That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's the bizarrest thing about, and I don't understand this. You want to talk about branding for one sec?
sure.
Is the car companies advertise, and particularly in the Australian experience, 0 to 100 and 3 point whatever, 600 horsepower, and yet our road laws are completely contrary to that.
They're getting slower and
There's a
slower.
There's a real disconnect between what the car companies are trying to appeal to on the consumer and what the consumer reality is.
Yeah, there's actually a disconnect. Massive one. They almost shouldn't be allowed to market that.
Correct. It's bizarre.
I always think, as someone who doesn't own a luxury car, and I like
That's because you
driving
spend
fast.
too much time in golf.
Yeah, I know. But I always think it does seem mad to own a luxury car in Melbourne.
It does.
Because
It makes no sense.
40 zones, everything's getting
Yeah,
slower and
everything's
slower.
40.
It's going to get. They're talking about doing 30 soon. I mean,
I mean, I'm always getting shots saying, slow down. But I'm like, Charlotte, I can go as fast as I want from 0 to 60.
Exactly. Yeah, no, look, the car thing's not rational.
Hey, so of the 4 Porsches models,
1981 Pooh Brown 930 Turbo. Yeah,
okay, I've got a few saved on my phone. Is the colour macadamia? Or
it's
is
called
the
Mocha.
Mocha. Fuck, it's a good brown.
It's the only. I think it's the only one in the country.
Was that the one that was
tap out of this.
under the basement at Dutton's, sitting there, getting work done on it last year?
Yeah.
I took a photo of
That's
it.
my car.
I fucking love that car.
So I've got that. I've got a 991.2 Targa.
Great car. Very nice rims.
Yeah, I've got I just recently bought and you've got to be a real Porsche head to understand this car because I've shown so many people, I don't know what that is. A 993 RSCS.
Okay, so
That's proper.
I just saw a yellow one going
mine.
down Toorak Road the other day.
That's
Now,
mine.
That's yours?
That's mine.
I was getting my glasses fixed last week on the corner of Toorak Road and Chapel Street, and I said to someone, see that car there? That could be nearly a $2 million car.
That's mine.
I can't believe it. So I've seen 2 of your cars organically.
You have?
What's the third?
Or the Targa you might have seen around.
don't say it's a singer.
So, no, I don't have a singer. I've been to the factory. I know Rob who builds singers. The last one's a race car, a cup car.
I can't
A
believe
GT3
you've
cup
got,
car.
you've got the 2 models that I need to add to my collection.
Yeah, and I've got some other stuff too.
Sounds like you might need a visit.
Oh, God, I really want to come over.
You should see my garage.
I can only
very
imagine.
good.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So where does it stop? How do you like? Oh, you.
Oh, I'm trying to stop now because
You're getting in trouble.
No, it's sort of I've found a better way to waste money. Boats.
Oh God.
But we're the wrong state for it.
Mine aren't here. They're in the states that boats should be.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a sneaky suspicion we'll see you living up in Queensland pretty soon.
Hopefully.
This next part, when we do episode 2 of the podcast, we do it from a beachside location.
Sure.
Is that going to be
On
okay?
the boat.
Yeah, we'll do it on the boat.
That'd
Sure.
be great.
It might be up in those states. Anyway, it was fascinating. I mean, I just love the fact that this all started because you drove past the house. Happened to be standing out the front. You say, I live here, and here we are.
But do you know what that is? That is something within Matt's core that is in his blood, that is a born opportunist. Can take...
Can I get a job?
Mate,
You'd love to.
have you been on Seek?
We've got a few out there.
It's a trait that creates opportunity, and you seek it, you find it, you make it happen, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on here.
Yeah. Thank you very
Glad I
much,
can
man.
come.
Very good to meet.
Really good. Really good. Thanks, Matt.
My pleasure.
Don't forget, you can catch WTF at any podcasting platform that you go to, and of course, you can get your machines at machinesforyou.com.au.